Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Wanted to go over one more time about some ESO reminders. We're going to mainly refer to this document, which will be sent out to you soon. Not every section applies to each of you. Some of it applies to the battalion, OIC, etc. Some of the sections we're not going to be utilizing right now until we have some further training on them, but we'll get that all up and running here in the near future. So mainly what I want to go over are some reminders and refreshers, because we are going live with ESO on October 1st. So that'll be next Saturday. It's an A shift. So I'll be available, of course. I believe firefighter glasses will be available. But I do ask, if you do have any questions, to refer to the SOG 405, which is for incident reporting, and then also this ESO reminders tab that we just talked about. All right, let's dive in here. So first little reminder is every time that you log in under the agency code, you'll have to put the JTWPFD in here every single time. That's just how the system works. It won't auto save it. It won't save it on the iPads. So you'll just have to keep an eye on that. There should be a home screen type app icon, you can call it, on each iPad. So instead of using IMS, we're going to be using ESO, and it should have a picture of what you see in front of you right now, which has the login and ambulance in the background. So all you have to do is click on that and it'll take you directly to Safari, which is a web browser, which will take you into the login that you see in front of you. So go ahead and jump into that. Keep practicing, of course. At about the night before or the night of, before October 1st, we're going to be leaving IMS on the iPads for the time being, so you can still access fire prevention information like building owners and maintenance. So you can still access those, but we're also going to be using the training under resources for the time being until we get everybody trained on how to enter training on ESO. It's not very hard. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to be doing a video after this, so we can go over that. So let's log in here and we'll get going. So as you can see, this is your dashboard, as you're aware. If you have any questions about a specific, if you want to learn more about things, you can go to this product training. Anybody can go to it and look at videos, go through a step-by-step process of how to put this or that in. But between EHR and fire incidents, it's pretty self-explanatory. Release notes is if they update something. And if they send to me an email outlining what they've updated and it pertains to us, I'll probably send that out to everybody also. Please make sure that you log in periodically throughout your shift. Look at messages. So down here, so if you put a EHR or fire incidents run in, the battalion may go into their QM, which is quality management tab, and they might provide some feedback to you. So that kind of starts with what's called like an instant message in a roundabout way, and that will show up under your messages. So you don't get it. There's no email notifications. There's no text notifications. They don't have that right now. And I'm not sure they're going to be adding it anytime soon. So just please periodically log into ESO to double check that you don't have any pending messages. And maybe the battalion or acting battalion may remind you to double check that also. All right, let's jump into EHR. So obviously all these runs are not going to be here. It will be, under My Records. You can start under Selected View, My Records or All Records if you want to see everybody's. It's all up to you. Now remember, you can only access or edit your own run. So any clinical information or such, you as personnel on that call are the only one who can add or take away any information onto that run. So just a reminder. I would recommend that when you start a run, whether it's on the fire incidents tab or EHR, to always hit CAD import. So hitting CAD import, it will show unit specific, each unit individually, how they show up on the CAD. Now, if multiple units go to a call, then they'll still show up here individually, even though it's not necessarily a EMS call. They'll still show up here like Engine 4 just went on a car fire. So that shows up here also. So just make sure you're selecting the correct unit, because once it's taken off the list, it's kind of gone. So you might have to manually enter stuff, and we don't want that to happen. So a good practice is to hit CAD import potentially at the beginning of your call, halfway through, and then towards the end of your call. Once you select a run, you can go back into the CAD import under the incidents tab, go over the CAD import, and then hit it again to update your times at the end before you would lock your run. So just as a reminder, how you would lock your run is, of course, you go up to the top right here where the check mark is. You hit, make sure all these validations would be gone from here. And as you can see, a lot of this stuff can only be edited by the crew, because I'm not considered a personnel on this specific run. So that can only be edited by the crew that is on the EHR documented on there. But once all these validations are met, there'll be a big green check mark, as you've probably seen, after you've been entering mock runs, and then it'll hit lock, and that will lock the run. And up here, this will change from a check mark into a symbol that shows a lock mechanism. Or this will actually change from a green unlocked to a black or dark blue locked symbol. So how you fax a report is another reminder. So hitting the home button kind of gets you back to the I kind of consider it as a backspace. You can also hit backspace if you so choose. But how you would lock your run. So let's go to some runs that are locked. So I'm going to go to my records. So I have George Foreman here. The run is locked, as you can see the difference between the two. Okay. And as a reminder, these runs do not automatically get sent to the hospital. So you would put your destination into the EHR as you would previously do. That's how you calculate mileage, and that's how you send reports. You come over here to the right to the hamburger stack, you select it, and you hit fax. Fax, it'll say, do you want to fax this record to Mercy Medical Center main campus? You would hit send fax, and then it would be sent. Unlike IMS, this does not happen automatically, like you just said. So another way to double check this, and the BCs and active BCs will be double checking this also, is you go down here to fax history, select fax history, and that call showing that it went to Mercy Medical Center, which should say complete and such. If it's not, then you might have to resend it, and you can always work through that. But there's already a link set up for this, so just remember to hit that, hit fax, verify the destination, and send away. Pretty simple. When we are under an incident here, remember the fire incidents tab, which is at the bottom of the first tab. Okay, this is the NIFRS portion. So as of right now, we run what's called auto EHR, and auto EHR means that obviously the majority of our calls at Jackson Township Fire Department are EMS. So you do an EHR like you are right now, you do not have to go to the fire incidents tab to enter any information. It automatically makes an EHR or a NIFRS for fire incidents run automatically. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is finish this portion along with the rest of this whole EHR report. You lock it and then fax it to the hospital, and you don't have to go to the fire incidents tab at all. Now, the caveat to that is if there's 2 or more units responding to a call. So if Rescue 1 responds with Medic 2 to cardiac arrest, for example, then Rescue 1 would have to come back and finish their own fire incidents report, which is essentially a NIFRS run. You're adding your personnel, your times, where you went, what you did, your unit narrative and your incident narrative. Pretty self-explanatory. Medic 2 is going to complete this run regardless, but the difference is Medic 2 doesn't have to complete a fire incidents run report for this, because it's automatically done through this tab right here. So as a reminder, remember 321 for as commonly used calls. So 321 EMS call excluding accident with injury. So remember that. And then under actions taken, remember 33 and 34 are commonly used ones. Please do not use zero codes. Zero codes don't really track any information for us, and then NIFRs will actually send that back to us also. So as a reminder, of course, you can search by number, or you can search by just adding or just typing in letters of what you're looking for. So those are a nice addition to this. So for this, I'm going to put 33 provided advanced life support, and then I'm good to go. So if you come and you start a new incident, for example, you hit a new record, or you do a CAT import for run, and you're going to a lift assist, and you hit EHR on accident, and you created the run, you cannot delete the run. The battalions or acting battalions can delete. I can delete the runs if we double check, but obviously a lift assist should go under the fire incidents tab. So that would go under here as a lift assist because it's considered a NIFRS type call. Obviously, if the patient has injuries and you need to assess and treat, then it would be under an EHR and patient refusal or transport or whatever. But if it's just a lift assist with no injuries, it would be a fire incident. Okay. So let's say you come in here and you start entering information. You're like, ah, crap, I forgot that lift assists are supposed to go under the fire incidents. What we would like you to do is just come in here and just put delete under both first and last names. That way, you can go out of this. It'll show delete on here. That should prompt the battalion to go into the system, where you can contact them and say, hey, I need you to delete this run. And then as an admin, they can come in and delete this run, and it all will be well. Just make sure that you go to the fire incidents and enter your report in there. So if you already entered patient information into the EHR, make sure that that information gets transposed between the EHR and fire incidents tab. Now, that information will not go across automatically. So because the NIFRs and the EHR do not talk to each other whatsoever. So just remember that whatever information you put under the EHR for patient information, make sure you write it down or transpose it to a fire incident run for lift assist before you would have the battalion delete the EHR. And as always, make sure that you complete your reports as accurately as possible. Please refer to SOG 405 incident reporting for any questions, and this also the ESO reminders page. Level of service when we're conducting a call, make sure that you're putting in ALS 1, ALS 2, BLS, whatever that is. So ALS 1 or ALS equals ALS 1, and then obviously ALS 2 is the 2 or 3 more interventions or medications that you would give. So just make sure that you're documenting that appropriately. Next is, how do I send a DOA run report? So let's say this is a DOA right here. But the best way we have right now to do this is, obviously the scene is going to be whatever the scene is. Have your personnel as such. What you're going to have to do, and I got to jump to another report here, excuse me. What you're going to want to do is come down to destination. Actually, before that, come up here to disposition. Go to just select transported, no lights or lights, whichever, doesn't necessarily matter. And then what you'll hit disposition, transported, come down to hospital or destination type. And what you're going to want to put in here is morgue or mortuary as such. And then the only destination name for that is the Stark County Coroner. So that information will pre-populate that we put in before. And then you're done with your report. You would come back out to this report. Okay. You would come over here to the hamburger stack, and you would fax it, and then Stark County Coroner would come up as the destination for that. send fax, you can verify it by fax history. And then what you would need to do is come back in to disposition, change it to patient dead on scene or whatever is sufficient for that, and that would take away the information down here. Currently, that's the only most accurate, efficient way of sending the report to the coroner's office. So that's what we're going to go with for the time being. You can attach med lists and such by going up here to the camera on the top right. You can select that. Obviously, this is a computer, so it's not going to show up, but you can take pictures, you can add attachments, whatever you so choose. Now, this, I heavily, I want you to know that this doesn't replace going to the patient tab and entering the patient's history, their allergies and medications, because yes, you can take a picture of the med list, and obviously we're not going to enter every single medication, including fish oil and stuff like that. What I would mainly look for is, in the hospital would look for are the heavy hitter medications, I'll call them. Metoprolol, blood thinners, stuff like that. Beta blockers, medications that you see often and could, alter the patient's signs and symptoms and such. Those are the ones we want to see in this section. Okay, so it's still okay to take pictures. That's fine. It all stays in the report. It doesn't go anywhere. But just remember that it doesn't take out this section of entering information. Now, on top of that, as a reminder, is if you have a patient that you want to import their information, if you just take pictures of their med list the first time you encounter them, and you don't go to medications, allergies, or history and put that information in, that information isn't going to show up, and neither is the picture you took however long ago. So that's another efficient way of entering that stuff is if I enter history, allergies, medications, etc., then when I import a patient within 150 days of me transporting them the last time, then that information will come up also. So just as a reminder, there is advantageous to enter that stuff in here, but you are welcome to take pictures. Just make sure you put some information into these three categories. Of course, under vitals, flow charts, and assessment, make sure they're complete as possible. Under assessments, you don't have to put a full assessment on someone. It's not assessing every single one of these categories. You have to assess at least one of these categories. So for example, if you have a patient who had a foot injury, I would want to assess extremities. So all the rest of these would be no abnormalities, for example, unless there are. I would hit assess, and then I would go down to whatever foot it is, and I would hit no abnormalities for the rest, and then I would go down and hit, what my assessment is on that. So you have to have at least one full assessment on one portion of the body, whatever, is within the lines of the patient's chief complaint, signs and symptoms, etc. So under flow chart, this is where our procedures and medications are documented. Just as a reminder, if you need to enter a medication for like a saline lock, what you need to do is go to IV therapy, okay? And then IV therapy, and then your fluid will be documented under here, okay? Saline is listed as a medication on the saline list over here, but you just have to make sure that their ESO just has a little bit of a different way of adding that type of information. So please feel free, make sure that you're adding this information as much as possible. One of the things that you'll run into is, let's say you want to you put a bunch of stuff on the monitor, for example, and you want to import that stuff, or you're going to set your vitals and it's going to import all this stuff, which is a good way to do it. You can import your vitals through the monitor import before you get to the hospital, or while you're at the hospital. Just leave your monitor on, you transmit it to ESO, and that's already on your monitors. It's already ready and set to go. You transmit it. It comes up here. You select what you need to keep and what you don't need to keep. And then also on here, it will show up whatever procedures you did. But the difference is that not all of these procedures are going to show up exactly as they're documented here. Okay, some of them, like for example, mechanical CPR, it shows on here as mechanical CPR. Okay, unfortunately, on the monitors, when you go to change the events on there, I can't type in mechanical CPR because mechanical CPR is too many characters, meaning it's too long of two words, and it won't fit in the monitor. So it will be imported as a general comment. So as a reminder, for example, you can then come in here and say, okay, I have a general or mechanical CPR as a general comment. I'm going to hit mechanical CPR. It will populate here. Then you can go to that general comment, select it, and then delete it. That way you don't have duplicates on the list. And I plan on going over that a little bit more. Like I said, I plan on adding some videos and some reminders on how to document this or document that. But for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory on how to add information on these. And you've been practicing too, so that's always good. Next is remember to not do anything with the billing tab over here on the top right. You don't have to do anything with it. Don't enter any information. The billing department has their own software that's completely separate from this, and unfortunately, ESO won't take it off won't take it off as an option that we can take away. So it's just kind of here. So forget it's even there. Next is if I give a medication. So like right here, I gave saline to this patient. You want to go up here to the positive identification. It won't come up until you give a medication or one of the personnel give a medication. So if the attendant or officer or whomever gives the medication, it's going to show up with your name on here saying, hey, you need to confirm this medication. So name, confirm, it's unconfirmed at this point. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to enter my username information like I usually would when I log in to ESO. I hit next. And then I would add in my two answers, and then that would come up as confirmed. If you haven't done this, or if you do need to change your questions or answers, you can hit that link. This ESO profile will open, and you can add or change the questions or answers that you so choose. So these are the questions that I answered here. I can edit or remove the answer, okay? And I can also add questions if I so choose. So I have a more array of questions or answers or questions to the answers in the positive ID. So make sure you have that. It'll be confirmed. This will turn green, ready to go once it's all done. But it's specific to the person who gave the medication. So it might not be the officer who may be finishing the report. They will have to hand that off to that person, whoever gave that medication, for them to enter that information on the report. So just as a reminder, this is not to deter anyone from giving medications. We want you to give medications. The patients require it, of course. The protocol is pretty specific on giving medications. So please make sure you're giving medications when it's indicated and the patient needs it, regardless of transport time. But this is a requirement through the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy. It should have been happening before with IMS, but we're starting it now. So it's just part of the process for keeping us and our patients safe. So for documenting waste of narcotics, that'll be under your signatures tab over here. So signature tab, control substances, you'll select this tab down here, whatever the medication, the amount you have, who is witnessing. This is our list here. So if one of our own personnel, but I would recommend having someone different at the hospital, nurse, pharmacist, doctor, whomever. You can hit other and you can add their information here, have them sign here. And there's 3 different sections. So you have 3 different narcotics that you have to waste or controlled substances. You can document it 3 different times if need be. The quick treat button up here at the top right is the lightning bolt, the red lightning bolt. So like I've said before, there's a couple different ways to document procedures and medications and vitals. So you can hit this if you're working a code. You can come in here, go to general, and hit whatever information that is pertaining to this, and it'll in a roundabout way document the information appropriately. And then medications is the same way. This is not all the medications we have, but these are the quick medications. So I can select up to 20 medications, but these were the ones that I found that we may run into more often, especially the ones that have to do with cardiac arrest. And then CPR has to do with mainly the medications and the procedures that we perform in regard to a cardiac arrest. And then obviously vitals is just quickly entering vitals if you're in a hurry or just want to, but you still have to go back. So if you hit any of this information, of course, that's fine and dandy. You still have to go to flowchart and vitals in order to edit that information to make sure it suffices the validation issues. This is a reminder. So simply, if you do an ALS assessment, you obviously the time will be timestamped automatically. Was it successful? Any comments you want to add? And then who provided it? So this, obviously the list that's listed your personnel will show up. You know, it was approved. I didn't have any complications. I followed the protocol. And then, you know, if you get a physician that gives you this order, you can enter their name down here also. And there you go. That suffices the validation issues for that specific. And just as a reminder, whenever you have a run, I've talked about it already once before, when you have a run, 2 more units, the medic unit is going to complete the EHR, okay? But the other additional unit, that officer OIC, will be completing a fire incident for that specific run. So if we both went to Glenmont Drive, for example, and Medic 5, so Medic 5 is going to complete this because they're transporting the patient, they're doing patient care, etc. Now, let's say Rescue 1 went with them to Glenmont Drive, they would go to the Fire Incidents tab and look up Glenmont Drive on the CAD. So you want to import a CAD and then look for Glenmont Drive, import it, and then enter that information as such. Okay. Next, we're going to dive into Fire Incidents tab. So we're already in the Fire Incidents tab. You can find it by hitting the ESO button here. You can find it by going to the dashboard and seeing it here. There's a couple of different ways of getting to it. So just as an overarching reminder, these runs on the under Fire Incidents NIFRS portion of the ESO, we do not lock them. As officers, OICs, personnel entering these reports, we're not going to lock them. The battalion or the acting battalion are the only going to be the ones that will lock these reports. The reason for that is that they have to come into the reports anyways to QC them or quality control them. So let's say we had this run, Medic 3 and Rescue 1 went to this call. Rescue 1 should be completing this report because Medic 3 is doing their own EHR report. So Rescue 1 will go into here. They'll enter the information appropriately as such. And then down here under authorization, so whoever wrote the report, the officer in charge will go here. And this portion, the quality control, will be left blank. This is where the battalion will go through the run, look at unit reports, basic, or whatever is pertaining to this particular run. They will come in here, go to quality control, and say they're the ones who quality controlled it, and this is the date that they quality controlled it. That means that all the information is in there, it's good to go, and it's all that. The reason that we're doing this is because if we lock the reports, then we have to unlock them. So the battalions or admin has to unlock them, and it looks bad on the back end that, let's say, for example, this was a fatal car accident and they pull this report, and the attorney may say, well, why did you open and close this run? Why did you lock and unlock it? one or two times. Well, I had to change information. So that would just look bad when it comes to the information we're adding. So what we're trying to do is just to save that from happening in a roundabout way by saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. The officer IC is going to enter as much information as possible. Then they're not going to lock the run. They're just going to leave it on there. The battalion's going to come in here, QC the whole run, put their information in here, go back to whatever run that was, and then they will be the one to lock the run. Okay, so this is as a difference for it compared to EHRs and for all others between EHRs and NIFRs. So just as a reminder to you, that's what we're currently doing. And then of course, we're going to leave it in draft mode, and then the battalion can come once all the validations are met. For example, they can come in here, make sure everything's good to go, and they'll enter their quality control reviewer information down here. Now, just as a reminder, some of this information may change from time to time if we find a different, better, efficient way of doing things. But for the right now, that's what we're going to do until we get a little bit more used to using ESO in its entirety. So once again, when you come to this, and obviously all these runs should be on here, unless we have a really, really busy day. But the optimal way to start a fire incident is to go to import CAD. The difference between EHR CAD import and fire incidents CAD import is that under fire incident CAD import, it will show multiple units under one CAD. Okay. On the EHR, it shows them individually. Okay. So Medic 2 for this Fulton Drive call, they'll import their CAD on the EHR, but it shouldn't have any problem with this call on the, if Medic 1 or Rescue 1, they can still import this and enter their own information on the CAD or on the report, excuse me. So that is the preferred way to do this. The difference is if I do an incident and I say, okay, I'm going to add, I'm going to hit add incident, and I'm going to go, let's say it was this run on Route 30, for example. Okay. And then this big incident number comes up that has nothing to do with Jackson Township Fire Department. This is just a pre-defined ESO run number. It has there's something that has to do with something. But the problem is that when I go to CAD import, it's going to say that this import's not going to be successful because I didn't do a CAD import from the beginning. What I'll have to do is go to here, and I'll have to come back and delete most of that incident run number, and I'll have to put the year dash 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then whatever the run number may be. Okay, and it all obviously depends. If it's the beginning of the year, then it might be, or whatever it may be. So just the biggest, easiest way to do this is to just go to add incident, or excuse me, go to import CAD, and that will import your times, that will import the run number and all that stuff. So manually entering this add incident is not a preferred method. It would be better suited just to go off import CAD. You can import off of the EHR. So if Medic 2 transported a patient and their report's pretty much done or almost done, then you can import that information based off of the information they've already entered. So that'll save you some time too. But obviously, most of the time, the transporting unit goes to the hospital. They might be halfway there. Rescue 1 or whomever, the additional unit is already back in quarters, and it's just easier to go in here and hit import CAD. So anything obviously that is required, anything that's required will show up on here. Unfortunately on the EHR side, they won't put required on here. And the reason for that is that ESO's thought process is that if they start requiring certain fields on the EHR, that they're going to get a minimal amount of data, just the bare minimum of whatever is being required. And obviously, we don't want that. We want to have data that we may add later on. We want to look at certain things. So that's why they want as much data and as much information as possible. So if there's a section that's not necessarily required on the EHR or required on the fire incidents tab, and it pertains to your particular incident, please, please, please put that information in there. Yes, it takes literally a few more seconds to enter that information, but it'll be worthwhile on the back end when it comes to data and analytics when we're looking at specific things to improve on the department level. Of course, if you're doing actions required, you can search for certain things if you so choose, whatever you're searching for. You can do that, or you can do it by number. Under the aid tab, if there's a run number that you're adding in here, it can only be 7 digits. So just remember that you're not putting the 2022 dash, and then, 8 more numbers on there. It only can be a max of 7 letters. So you could put 22 dash, whatever the number is, and that would suffice. Next is if we're doing a lift assist or we're doing a no duty, we can go down here to person/owner right here in this section. So obviously if it's an owner, you can add it here, or it's a person. So if we do a no duty, we can enter their information in here as such, or if it's a lift assist, we can do the same. Add person, add information here. Easy peasy, okay? Next is we obviously go down through here and complete each required section and then additional information that pertains to the incident. But remember that this down here is the incident narrative, but also under unit report, you have the units here, okay? Medic 3, if they're transporting, that should already be done. You don't have to do anything with that. But down here under rescue 1, you would select this and you'll enter, the information as it pertains to the run. The times, if you need to change anything, it should be CAD imported automatically. Actions required or actions taken should be added in here, and you can add up to 4. Then obviously you want your personnel. So let's say I was on the run, I add myself, and if it's a structure fire, I can add, what did this person do, or extrication, or whatever the call is. I can add what they did. If it turned out to be a medical call or you took care of someone, you can enter that information in here if you have patient contact. And then the nice part is no more exposure forms that you can add what you're exposed to, the PPE you wore during the exposure of a structure fire, for example, and then if you had any PPE malfunction, barrier breach, black soot, or black soot around the mouth. And then if you deconned. Just as a reminder, this does not take over the gear tracker. We still need to document when we're cleaning our gear and gear tracker. So that's a nice addition to that. So you add your personnel and then your unit narrative. So for example, if you go to a lift assist, for example, medic 1 goes to a lift assist, they'll do their incident narrative as such, but they'll come in here and say, they can just say, refer to incident narrative, or they can put in lift assist, no injury. It doesn't have to be anything immaculate when it comes to the unit narrative, because you already have an incident narrative under the basic tab. So pretty simple there. Now, if it's an engine call for a fire alarm, for example, and you have engine 3 and tower 1, for example, each of the units are going to do their own respective unit narratives. Okay, so whoever the first arriving unit is, they're going to obviously do the incident narrative. Of course, they can copy and paste and come down here and put that under their unit narrative if they so choose. Or If Tower 1 was the second arriving unit, they can put in here, they can come in here and put standby with FTC. Or if you're canceled en route, you can put canceled en route. Whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be anything immaculate. Now, when it comes to structure fires, this unit narrative should be, quite a bit longer. Tower 1 assisted with ventilation, engine 3, etc. So this is going to be, as of right now, unless otherwise stated by fire prevention or a chief officer, this will be that unit saying what they did on that structure fire, even if you're the first arriving unit. So obviously, if it's 2 more lines, the BC would do the incident narrative. But outside of that, the unit narrative will be, hey, what did you see? What did you do? All those types of things. So that will be that, unless the fire prevention or a chief officer wants a Word document written statement, like we've been doing in the past. So that's a little bit of a change, just so you're aware. A nice feature of incidents is if you obviously import the CAD for these calls under the fire incidents tab, you can come up here to this headset and hit it, and then we'll come up with the CAD notes. So you're like, hey, did how many cars was this, or what were the time mark, or what was the information about this call, or whatever the case may be about a structure fire. You can go back up to this, and the CAD notes will actually be displayed up here. But you have to do a CAD import in order for this stuff to be displayed. So just as a reminder. So this headset's right up here. Obviously, you can check your validations right here, or you can just search for the required tabs. So that's pretty self-explanatory, not a lot of information that goes in there. Obviously, the more information you add in here about incident type, the more that these top things will turn from black to white. And that means that you need to add some information into it, especially if it has this danger type exclamation triangle up here in the corner. So those will come up depending on the incident type and information you add into the report. The investigation tab, we don't do anything with. I'm not sure the Bureau will be utilizing it or not, but we don't need to do anything with that. It's mainly, the majority of the time, we're going to be adding information into these 2 tabs, basic and unit reports. That's pretty much it. Unlike EHR, you can't add incidents by going up to this tab and adding things. So just as a reminder that once you're in here, if you need to go to a different incident, or you have multiple incidents that you went to, you'll have to go back to this type of display in order to go to a different type of incident. So if another new section that we added to the SOG 405 for incident reporting was the incident type codes. So in order to standardize some of the special response incident type codes for better analytics, they added some codes specific for high school football details, amphitheater concerts, community celebrations, Hall of Fame Balloon Classic, fire prevention, fireworks, standby events. They will use what's considered a incident type code of 571. And what that shows up as, cover assignment, standby, move up. That was something that was added to, or was designated in the SOG as what we'll be using for, once again, football details, amphitheater concerts, community celebration, Hall of Fame Balloon Classic, and fire prevention, fireworks, standby. If you do a touch a truck or similar PR event, you'll do the use code as 5531, which is added as touch a truck or other PR event. If you do a hazmat team, if you're on the hazmat team and you do a call out, that will be 5511. So hazmat team response. And then last, if you're on SWAT, for a SWAT medic call out, you'll do 5512 as a SWAT medic response. So we added some of these. The reason we did it is for analytics and data on the back end to prove how many calls are we going to, and we need to disseminate that information separate from the other information that we've, other just putting in regular codes. We'd have to dive deeper. This makes it a lot easier for us to pull that information. Okay. Coming soon, we'll be adding some more trainings. Like I plan on doing a training video about under the personnel management. So officers and OICs will have access to this to add trainings into this. So under this training portion over here, we can add trainings like we do in ESO, or excuse me, IMS. So that'll be coming in the near future, so we can start that. So have a watchful ear and eye out for that. And then also, when it comes to if you want to reference any commonly used NIFR codes, you can go back to the ESO reminder page that will be sent out here soon, and go to the last page, and here's a layout of commonly used incident type codes under the NIFRS portion. So obviously for majority of our calls, we'll be using 321, but there's some commonly other ones on here. And then of course you can search by keyword or number. So I will be posting this video on Fire Rescue One. I'll be assigning it to everyone in the near future, so we can get some refreshers. If you come up with any questions, please feel free to email me, reach out, and I want to answer your questions. I want to make sure the system is as easy and simple as possible come October 1st, and then moving forward. I know there's going to be questions and such like moving forward, but make sure that you're watching these things and putting reports in. The more you do that, the easier your system is going to be. So without further ado, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you later.